Okay, ja, das mit der KI muss ich dann noch erklären. Da müssen wir halt ein bisschen warten, da werden ein paar herumspielen dann. Das müsste erst, bis der QR-Code kommt. Aus dem Buch ein kurzes Zitat lesen. Das lese ich dann einfach selber auf Italienisch und Deutsch. Ein anderes Buch? Ja, aus den Tagebüchern von ihrer Mutter. Aber das ist eine kurze Stelle. Weil das ist auf Italienisch.
Years, it's over.
Headache, really? Huh? Headache from yesterday.
I just have no energy in the mornings. Like this. I mean, it's nice, but it's not perfect anymore.
Do it. Ja, das Licht ist aus und wir können beginnen. Herzlich willkommen zu dieser ersten Veranstaltung heute. Ein Gespräch mit Dacia Maraini und begrüße auch gleich Brigitte C., die uns helfen wird bei den deutschen Übersetzungen. And now I switch to English and I hope it's okay for you. I already announced it yesterday. So yesterday we had the reading in Italian and in German, but we decided to do this conversation in English. And the reason is simply because we think, it's better for you. You can follow our conversation directly. You don't have to rely on this also time-consuming translation. Yeah, and I hope it's okay for you, the most of you. And if you want to get help from artificial intelligence, where it is, there must be a QR code somewhere. Where it is? Okay. So please, if you want the help of KI, just take your cellulars, your cell phone, and copy this QR code, and you can. Ja, ich kann es auf Deutsch sagen. Genau. Und Sie können dann sich, egal welche Sprache Sie denn auswählen, Deutsch oder was auch immer, und die KI sollte dann das alles für Sie übersetzen. Also Sie sind frei zu entscheiden. Also wenn Sie das jetzt versuchen möchten, wir warten auch gerne. Ja, Sie könnten, also es gibt auch gibt es nicht auch ein paar, auch in Papierform QR-Codes?
Dann kommen Sie doch zu uns auf die Bühne zum Scannen.
Ja, weil Magdalena, also eigentlich sollten Sie es hochheben können und aufnehmen. Aber Technik ist immer, wir müssen Vorsicht. Mal sehen. Ist es gelungen? Ja? Okay, so it's okay, we can start. Yes, so I think yesterday we had the reading and today's conversation mostly. You will also hear some pages, but some readings. But first of all, I think it's just helpful to explain briefly the complicated historical background of the situation that led to this confinement of Italian people in Japan. And maybe you remember that Italy and Japan, they had a very close relationship. They were partners since 1937, first with the anti-Comintern.
43.
Yeah, but first they were allies already in the anti-Comintern because this was the war against the communism. Okay. Then in 1940, Hitler, Mussolini, and Japan, they had this famous Drei-Mächte-Pact, in the Tripartite Pact, they say it in English, or in Italy you say il tripartito. So they were very close. Then in 1943, the situation in Italy changed completely. So the Allies already landed in Sicily. Italy was tired of the war, right? And Marshal Pietro Badoglio, together with with fascists and monarchists, they ousted Mussolini. Mussolini was arrested, and Badoglio arranged an armistice with the Allies. Yeah? So Italy surrendered. And therefore, the Germans helped Mussolini to found the Repubblica Sociale Italiana, known as the Republic of Salò. Now, this meant for all Italians living in Japan that they had to make clear on which side they stood, because if they did not support Mussolini and this Repubblica Sociale Italiana, for Japan, they were from now on, they were traitors, they were enemies, yeah, of course. And so all Italians living in Japan, they were obliged to declare officially their support of Mussolini's republic. And those Italians who refused this were considered like as enemies, and they were confined in a detention camp. This is what happened. The parents of Dacia Maraini refused to accept the Republic of Mussolini, and the whole family, with their 3 little daughters at the age of 2, 4, and 6 years, were brought to a detention camp in Nagoya, together with other 10 or more Italian men. Yeah, they were and the very special thing of this and your story, Dacia, is that your parents made their decision completely independently of each other. So there was without any agreement between the two of them before. And this is quite astonishing for a young father and a young mother with 3 little children, that they decided not to support the Republic of Mussolini, and they knew that this would have consequences. And if they knew how harsh these consequences would be, yeah, we can talk about this, yeah. But this is the thing, yeah, it's impressing. Everybody said, wow, they were asked, do you support or not? And the mother was in another room, and Fosco, the father, in another room, and both of them independently said no. Yeah. And this part, yeah, we would like to ask Brigitte to read it.
Yes. Einige Tage nach dem 8. September 1943 wurden meine Eltern aufgefordert, die japanischen Behörden aufzusuchen. Eine Fahrt im Taxi, in der Erwartung einer sozialpolitischen Predigt durch die Beamten. Es kam anders. Während ich in der Obhut einer weißhaarigen Mitarbeiterin mit schwarzer Schürze blieb, wurden Fosco und Dacia in 2 getrennte Büros geführt und über ihre Einstellung bezüglich des Drei-Mächte-Pakts zwischen Japan, Nazi-Deutschland und dem faschistischen Italien befragt. Wer sich entschied, auf der Seite der Republik von Salò zu stehen, musste dem faschistischen Regime die Treue schwören. Und zwar noch an Ort und Stelle. Wer sich dagegen entschied, würde als Vaterlandsverräter in einem Konzentrationslager landen. Meine Eltern blieben ihren Idealen treu und unterschrieben nicht, ohne sich noch einmal abzusprechen. In den Folgejahren hat mir meine Mutter oft erzählt, dass sie unabhängig voneinander entschieden hätten. Es war ihr wichtig zu betonen, dass ihre Entscheidung nicht von ihrem Mann beeinflusst worden war, sondern dass sie diese eigenständig getroffen hatte. Es war keine politische Entscheidung. Einer Partei gehörten die beide nicht an. Aber eines einte sie: die Ablehnung jeder Art von Rassismus. Aus Sicht eines Anthropologen ist das verständlich, aus Sicht der Tochter einer sizilianischen Adelsfamilie, die in Bagheria aufgewachsen war, vielleicht weniger. Aber es genügte, meinen Großvater Enrico Aliata ein wenig zu kennen, um zu wissen, woher die liberalen Ideen einer blonden jungen Frau stammten, die ins Leben und in die Wahrheit verliebt war. Nonno Enrico war ein Aristokrat, der nichts auf die Aristokratie gab. Ein Adliger, der gemeinsam mit seinen Bauern im Weinberg arbeitete, Bücher über Philosophie und Geschichte las und äußerst besorgt über das war, was in den 1930er Jahren geschah. Denn er hatte Tolstoi, Tacitus und Platon gelesen, kannte Krishnamurti und seine Ideen über den Frieden und die geistige Freiheit. Er war ein unruhiger Geist, der klare Vorstellungen von einer demokratischen Haltung hatte, auch wenn er keiner bestimmten Ideologie folgte. Die sehr freundlichen japanischen Polizisten wurden nach den abschlägigen Antworten meiner Eltern sehr schnell rüde und verachtend. Sie waren von nationalistischer Gedankengut beseelt und huldigten einer konservativen und autoritären Staatsideologie. Besonders unhöflich waren sie meiner Mutter gegenüber. Sie hatten Tränen der Reue erwartet, beschworene Mutterliebe und die flehentliche Bitte, ihr und ihren Kindern gegenüber Erbarmen zu zeigen. Stattdessen sahen sie sich einer stolzen und entschlossenen Frau gegenüber, die ihre Gedankenfreiheit verteidigte. Ihre Haltung hatte nichts Terroristisches, aber sie stand entschieden auf der Seite des Widerstands gegen die politische und soziale Arroganz, gegen die Missachtung von bürgerlichen Rechten und Ideen. Sie wissen, dass wir gezwungen sind, sie als Vaterlandsverräter in einem Konzentrationslager zu internieren. Meine Mutter nickte, auch wenn sie gewisse Zweifel beschlichen. »Und was wollen Sie mit den Mädchen machen?« fragte der Polizist. »Können Sie mir zusichern, dass Sie nach Italien zu Ihren Großeltern reisen dürfen?« »Davon kann keine Rede sein.« »Könnten Sie sie dann dem Schweizer Konsulat übergeben, wo ich Freunde habe, die sich um sie kümmern könnten?« »Wir sind im Krieg, Signora, wir könnten sie höchstens in einem japanischen Kinderheim unterbringen.« »Nein, dann ziehe ich es vor, dass Sie bei uns bleiben.« Meine Mutter hatte einen eisernen Willen und sie verteidigte ihre Rechte, solange es ihr möglich war. Angesichts der Borniertheit der Polizisten wählte sie die Einheit der Familie. Und sie hatte recht. Das Waisenhaus, in dem wir hätten untergebracht werden sollen, wurde später bombardiert. Alle Kinder starben. Das haben wir natürlich erst nach dem Krieg erfahren. Wir Mädchen sind im Lager geblieben, ständiger Lebensgefahr ausgesetzt, aber schlussendlich haben wir überlebt. Und das verdanken wir der Intuition und der Beharrlichkeit einer jungen Sizilianerin mit einer Leidenschaft für die Freiheit. Es bleibt der Schmerz über die unschuldigen Kinder, die im Bombenhagel gestorben sind. Aber der Krieg ist grausam und in unseren Zeiten trifft er weniger die Soldaten als vielmehr die Zivilbevölkerung.
Grazie. Thank you. Dacia, you said once in an interview that there were 40,000 Italians living in Japan at the time, and only 20 voted against the Mussolini's Republic of Salon. So were your parents aware that they belong to such a small minority?
Well, you know, when there is a situation of regime, that like the fascist regime, you can't ask people to be hero. No? In a way, my father, my mother, without knowing maybe, without really wanting, but they became heroes. But the people usually are afraid to lose their work, to lose their situation, to go to the prison, you know. I think this is very normal, it's human. So the Italians that were in Japan thought maybe I just signed, it's a formality. I thought this was the atmosphere. But my father and my mother, they were maybe more strong, linked to their idea of freedom. And they were absolutely against racism. They were not politically engaged, but they were against racism. Well, my father was an anthropologist. I mean, and an anthropologist can be racist, but the same. They have this idea that the people must be free of free of to think what they want, to speak what they want, and to go around the world. This is a democracy, no? And they decide for this kind of idea, and they were prepared to pay for that. Freedom, is easy when you have freedom, as we have in this moment, luckily. I hope for a long time. But if you risk something, it's not easy. But I don't pretend from people to become heroes. I think that slowly we have to try to change. And because even the important governments, tyranny governments need population. I mean, they need somebody who agree what they do, what they are doing. That's why I think that people usually, I mean, the Italian under Mussolini, they were not all fascists. You can understand that after the war, when you see the photos of the Italians were so happy that had finished the fascism. And because it was a long time, they wouldn't like to go on with fascism. But when the regime is there, they have the control of the, for example, also of the newspapers, of the radio, of all the media. They have the control. They have the control of the police, and they have the control of the magistratura, come si dice, the judge. Yeah. So you are as a citizen, you don't have any freedom. That is the problem. Mm. So we can't say that all the Italians were fascist at all, but the people were afraid. And that happened, I think, also in Germany and also in Japan. Our experience was that the Japanese, the majority of the normal Japanese people, were with us. I mean, they didn't consider us as enemies. They considered us poor people who were in prison, you see. So I think this is something that we have to think about. I mean, you can't ask people to be heroes. A population sometimes is a prisoner of an ideology. Sometimes they can love an ideology, but is like an illness. Sometimes, you know, we can fall in love with a wrong person. That happens in history, we know. That happens that we can, also privately, no? Possiamo innamorarci della persona sbagliata. Questo succede. Va bene?
Yeah, grazie.
Grazie a voi.
I just would mention something we spoke before, because the father of Dacia Maraini, the anthropologist, Fosco Maraini, he went to Japan after the war very early, some years after, in the 54, 55, I think. And then he published later this book, Ore Giapponesi. Okay? Yeah, I can recommend it. It's a very impressive book about Japan. And in this book, he describes how he was one other man from the detention camp. They were friends, Giorgio, and they met one of the guards, one of these sadistic guards. It was called the Nishi-san. I said, "Oh, this is Nishi-san." And this Nishi-san, now after the war, he was a poor man, and for the father of Dacia Maraini, Fosco, he took his money and he gave this guard all his money, and they embraced each other, and they exchanged their addresses, and there was no hate. And so this is something, it touched me a lot, because, this is what you always say, it's not the people, it's the regime.
Well, after the war, the guards imagined that we wanted to make vengeance, that we wanted to kill the guards, but nobody really wanted to do that. I mean, we were against the vengeance. Nobody in our small society wanted to make vengeance or to kill our guards, but they were afraid of this, you see. And I think this is a choice. Vengeance is not something that useful. It procure new vengeance and new vengeance. I think that justice is the real thing that we should ask for. No, even the war. Sometimes the war come out for need of vengeance. Instead, it should be, if somebody of some state is wrong, try to interfere through justice and not vengeance.
You wrote about your camp experience for the first time in '93 in the novel Bagheria, the name of the place of your ancestors. And in it, you mainly recount your life after returning from Japan to Sicily in '46. And specifically, you returned to this place, Bagheria, in Sicily. It's close to Palermo, a part of Palermo. And compared to this book now, I found that you write much more emotionally in Bagheria than in this book. And in Bagheria, your anger and disappointment about the conditions in Sicily, about the mafia, the arrogant noble family, and so on, they are expressed vehemently and clearly. And I had the impression that Sicily left a much more negative impression on you than Japan. Is that correct?
No, it's not. I mean, in Japan, I was really a child. I was from 2 years old to 8 years old. So I've been 8 years, but I mean, my relation, I felt that I was a small Japanese child. I used to speak Japanese very well, and for me, Italy was exotic. Instead, for Italy, in Italian, Japan is exotic. For me, it was the contrary. Italy was the exotic country. And all my culture, the beginning of my culture was Japanese. The Japanese theater, the Japanese stories, etc. You told me before we were speaking about that terrible story about a child story, cruel child story. But so I felt much more inside that culture and that feeling and that atmosphere. In Sicily, I was more a foreigner. I had to enter in a new language, a new story, in a new culture. That is something. It's not so easy, to change when you are a child. For example, a religion like the Japanese religion is a polytheistic religion. I mean, they believe that a mountain is a god, a river is a goddess, and the trees are full of spirit. So, and then I come to Italy, and I had to learn that there is a God, only one God, and very severe, very and that animals, trees or woods don't have any vitality. They just are there to serve humans. Well, this is something. I mean, it's a change. It's a very great change. Another thing, in Japan, the death is not the end of a life, because for the Japanese culture, the death is a passage. When you die, you come again in life in another body. So that creates a very different relation with death. So the death is a passage. So they have a very strange relation which doesn't belong to us with death. And that came to me, for example, through the theater, for example. Japanese theater is all about dialogue between the dead and the living people. And the dead people, for the Japanese culture, are, how can I say, very kind figures who help the living people to live better. Instead, if you think of our culture, for us, the dead are ghosts, sometimes vampire. If you think, sometimes the movies, books that were, the dead are vampire. They come out from the tomb with a little tooth. They go in the in the neck. So they are enemies. This is a really great difference. For the Japanese people, the dead are never enemies. They are friends. They are more wise people who can help the people to live better. Instead, for us, it's the contrary. So this changing for me had been, for the beginning was very difficult to change from one culture to another. But then I had to change, I had to adequate to this kind of another culture, and I did it, but it has been very hard.
Yeah.
If you want, I read a little moment in Italian, so maybe we can change a little moment. Passiamo all'italiano per un momento.
Sì, yes, please.
Ok?
Yes.
Allora, tutto comincia una mattina che sto in braccio a mia madre, dentro un'automobile silenziosa, e intravedo, al di là dei finestrini appannati, i lampioni che passano. Una luce, un buio, una luce, un buio. Era il mondo che si faceva corpo davanti ai miei occhi stupiti e aveva una cadenza calma e potente. Mentre mi abbandonavo un poco inquieta a quell'alternanza luce-ombra, sentivo il profumo che accompagnava mia madre, di mughetto e di un sapone giapponese che sapeva di menta. Era il tepore di un corpo amico, mentre gli occhi inquadravano un mondo che pensavo che sarebbe sempre stato così, un passaggio rapido fra luce e ombra. Avrei imparato poi, anche troppo presto, che l'ombra poteva prevalere sulla luce e tenermi prigioniera in un buio insistente. Io chiederei alla nostra bravissima Brigitte di leggerlo in tedesco.
I shall read it in German. Okay. Alles beginnt eines Morgens, als ich im Arm meiner Mutter in einem leisen Auto sitze und durch die beschlagenen Fenster die Straßenlaternen vorbeihuschen sehe. Licht, Dunkelheit. Licht, Dunkelheit. Es war die Welt, die vor meinen erstaunten Augen Form annahm und einen kraftvollen, ruhigen Rhythmus besaß. Während ich mich ein wenig bang dem Wechsel aus Licht und Schatten hingab, konnte ich den Duft wahrnehmen, der meine Mutter umhüllte. Maiglöckchen und eine japanische Seife, die nach Minze roch. Die wohlige Wärme eines mir nahen Körpers, während die Augen eine Welt sahen, von der ich annahm, dass sie für immer so sein würde. Ein schneller Wechsel von Licht und Schatten. Kurze Zeit später und noch viel zu früh würde ich lernen, dass der Schatten das Licht besiegen und mich in permanenter Dunkelheit gefangen halten konnte.
Danke.
Grazie. Thank you.
In the documentary Haiku on a Plum Tree, this is a documentary made by the niece of Dacia Maraini, Maraini, from 2016, and Muja is this daughter of the sister Tony, right? Yeah. Your mother Topazia appears in this documentary at the age of 102 years. And yeah, you can see how, this really strong and beautiful woman there. And there, Topazia Maraini says, we were only happy to forget, right? And now you also waited a long time until you started to write about this harmful episode of your life. And I would just like to read some sentences from your edition of the Diaries of Your Mother. Das ist La Nave per Kobe, ein Schiff nach Kobe. Das sind die Tagebücher, die Dacia Maraini herausgegeben und kommentiert hat, ihre Mutter. Your mother wrote them in the detention camp also and hid them. And you write at the end of this book, gli anni del campo di concentramento, così intensi e dolorosi, la guerra, la vita quotidiana del campo. Per tanti anni ho cercato di raccontarla questa storia, ma sul limitare del bosco mi sono sempre fermata col fiato mozzo, un senso di pudore e di sbigottimento insieme. Davanti a me, improvvisamente, appare un uomo senza faccia che cammina rapido. E io corro, finché raggiungo un carretto e racconto al carrettiere il terribile incontro. E lui volge verso di me la sua faccia vuota e dice, come me? Ja, ich übersetze es nur kurz auf Deutsch. Die KZ-Jahre, so intensiv und schmerzlich, der Krieg, der Alltag im Lager, so viele Jahre lang habe ich versucht, diese Geschichte zu erzählen, aber am Waldrand stoppte ich immer, außer Atem, mit einem Gefühl der Scham und der Ehrfurcht zugleich. Vor mir taucht plötzlich ein Mann ohne Gesicht auf, der sich schnell fortbewegt. Und ich laufe, bis ich einen Wagen erreiche und dem Fahrer von der schrecklichen Bewegung erzähle. Und der dreht sein ausdrucksloses Gesicht zu mir und sagt wie ich. And I think with this description, that, by the way, it remembers me a lot, a Japanese story from Lafcadio Hearn. Maybe you know Lafcadio Hearn. It was an Irish writer who collected Japanese stories. And there you can find a story very similar, with this faceless man. And I think you are expressing here this desire to speak about the harmful experience, but there is something stopping you. Yeah? And how did you overcome this barrier? And how were your feelings during writing down your personal memories? Was it only pain or also a kind of relief?
Well, I started many years ago to write this book, but then I stopped every time because it was too harmful. And so I postponed. I made other books. Then in these years, just the last years, and I'm preoccupied, I think, like you, about the wind of war, because we are in a very dangerous moment in which a Third World War can come up. You know it. You know better than me. We are in this danger. I hope naturally that we will not see this word, but there is the danger. And so I said, I have to finish this book. It was a duty. I had to finish because, everybody is it is easy to say, I'm against the war, sono contro la guerra. We are all against the war. But if you write down your experience, a true, real experience of what the war or the war can be for a child, I said that can be important as an experience that people can read, specifically the young girls and boys that have a very far distance from the war. For example, in Italy, when I go in the schools, I ask, till when you have made research on history? And they all tell me that the research never reached the last war. It is not forbidden. No, it's not forbidden. But they say we lose the time with the First War, or with the Roman Empire, or with the Greek story, and they never reach to the last war, which is, I think, is very important. I mean, we have to know from where we come, no, and why the war came out, and how the war exploded. This is, but very often, not in all the schools, but very often they say, we didn't arrive. We had no time, which I think we should, I say, we should start from the beginning. We should start from now and go back to the Roman Empire, not the contrary, you know? Well, but this is why I think that it's important for young people to understand what could be the war, no? The experience of a young girl. Then, thank you. Thank you. Then, but the strange thing is that this experience of writing about my experience was not bad. I mean, I understood that it was also a good thing for me to speak about that. I made a new relation with my memory, first of all. Secondly, I understood many things that I had forgotten, or maybe I wanted to forget, came back to me. This was very strange. Writing this book, I found in my memory, hidden or maybe lost memory, things that I felt that I had lost forever. Instead, they were there. And so while I was writing, they came out from my memory. And this has been another, Freud would say, that's good. Because you have to know to make a relation with the past. The past can be there like something hidden. You should have a more liquid relation with the memory. And that was the good idea of making this book. About my mother's memory. So when we went to the camp, they took away everything. No, we didn't have anything. It was forbidden to have books, notebooks, nothing, and no pen or nothing. Pencil. She had hidden a small booklet, how we call it, notebook, and a small piece of pencil. And so hidden, she will write about the day, every day, sort of diary, no? But it was forbidden. So where she was putting this, hiding this little notebook, my sister Yuki had a little bear, a little bear which she was keeping to herself, and nobody could take it away because she was screaming. No, so they left. The police left this little teddy bear. In the teddy bear, in the middle of the stomach, there was a zip where, and the police didn't know. And the zip, my mother used to put the little note and the little pencil in the stomach of the little bear. That's why we could get it after the war, because they didn't find it. But unfortunately, at a certain moment, the notebook finished. There was no place anymore to write, and the little pencil finished, and so she stopped writing. But the first year, And I looked a lot to this notebook because they were important notes about what was happening in the camp. For example, the fact that twice the official people of Italy came to visit the camp. And my mother said that we couldn't say a word because there was a come si dice, ricatto, chantage. Vabbè, non mi viene la parola. And they would say, if you say a word, we will take off the small amount of gohan. Gohan is rice that we had. It was like this. This was the rice for all the day and nothing else. No meat, no fish, no eggs, no milk, no vegetables, no fruit, nothing. That's all. That's why we had beriberi, scorbuto, non so come si dice in tedesco e neanche in inglese, anemia, we lose the hair, we had the blood in the mouth, you know, and then the parasite attack the body when it's weak, interior and exterior. And so that was very hard to support. Then my father, this when we were really dying of hunger, my father once, he was usually saying specifically to this Kazuya, who was the chief of the police, but the children are children. You can't treat the children like military prisoners, no? It was logical, but they didn't understand. They said, no, they are the children of traitors. They have to be treated like traitors. So what he did, my father, he knew very well the culture of the traditional Japanese antiquity. So he took an axe one day and he cut his finger. This is called yubikiri in Japanese. And it's a ritual, a very traditional samurai ritual. When you cut your finger and you throw your finger against the enemy, he gets an obligation. That's it. And he can't say that you are vile, come si dice? Vile?
Yeah.
Come si dice vile? Okay.
Böse, ja, genau. Bad. Yeah.
Okay. Vile, I say in Italian. I hope you understand. And he can't say it anymore because he was always saying, you Italians are, you are traitors, you are vile, vigliacchi, etc., etc. And so he couldn't say anymore because my father showed a sort of courageous action which was in the tradition of Japanese culture, you see. You know, harakiri, no? Harakiri is yubikiri is the cutting of the finger. And I must say that this sacrifice, because my father lost a lot of blood, and I remember as a child the scene, which has been terrible, because this Kazuya was all dressed in white, and my father cutting the finger, all the blood went on his dress, and he was shooting and he was shouting, and he took his sword, and he wanted to kill my father with a sword, but he couldn't because he didn't have the permission to do it. So he didn't, but I mean, we were afraid of that. And but in incredible anthropology sometimes can be useful. Because after a week, this Kazuya came with a little goat, una capretta. Come si dice capretta?
Ziege, kleine Ziege.
Okay. And she was giving us some milk. a very proteic milk. And that saved us, yeah, really, because we were dying of hunger. Now, if you eat just some rice and nothing else, we were absolutely not only like skeleton, but with a lot of illness. So I have to thank my father for his sacrifice, because it has been very, very, very difficult. He was losing all this blood. There was no doctor, nothing. We just put something around his finger. That I think that has been very, very important for us, for this little sheep, this little goat, which gave us some milk. So there are a lot of things that are, have been important for us. What I understood, can I go on?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. No, I don't want to bore you.
No.
Well, I understood that when somebody has gains the absolute power on other people, it can take out something that I think it belongs to the human being, which is sadism. Really, because if you feel that you have the power of life and death on somebody, you can feel that you are omnipotent, you are powerful, you are like a god, you can do what you want. And then comes out this pleasure of being so powerful. And this was the atmosphere of the police, I mean the guards. They had the power on us, complete power. And so they were sort of had the pleasure of this power, you see. And for example, they used to stay on the balcony. They were eating, and we were looking them like that. And sometimes they will take, for example, a head of a fish and throw it on the ground. And the grown-up people, they stay there, but we children, we were jumping on this just to take anything we could eat. And even a head, a dirty head of a fish, for us, it was something, you see. And they were laughing. They were happy. You see, this was it. This is sadism. This is sadism, no? Or another episode, I will say. My father was waiting for news from his mother because she was ill in Florence. And from Italy came letters. But they will take these letters, they will put her on the table and say, okay, in 1 week, we will give you the letters from Italy. So we were looking at the letters for 1 week, waiting for the letters to be opened. After the week, the Kazuya will be there, very official. The prisoners will come there to have the letters, and he will throw the letters. He will throw the letters, and this was terrible for us. Also, this is sadism, no? I think this is another kind of sadness. Well, this I think is important. These things I understood in the camp, how dangerous it is to give somebody the complete power on other people, because really that comes out something awful from the body, from the soul, I don't know from where, but something that can come out and be very, very cruel. Because it's the pleasure of assisting to the pain of others. And it's terrible. But I had the impression that this can be true also in a normal situation. For example, recently in Italy there was a scandal because in a house for the old people, they discovered that the guards, not the guards, come si dice, infermiere.
Pfleger. Pflegerin?
Yeah. Pfleger, ja.
Nurses.
Pfleger.
Nurses. The nurses were how can I say? They were cruels, you see, because they had the power, complete power, because they were so weak, these people, like little children. They couldn't do anything. And they put some video, and they saw that they were kicking, making cruelties, not necessary cruelty, I mean, horrible cruelties, women and men. You see? This is the terrible thing. And this is because they had the power, the complete power. And so I understood forever that we should never, never give complete power to anybody. I think this is the part.
Yeah.
The law.
Maybe now we spoke a lot, about your situation, because you choose a very interesting part for reading. It's where you tell about the other persons in the detention camp, because most of them were very young. Your parents were very young. There were also some elder people. So can we just read a part of this?
In German or?
Yeah, maybe
German.
Maybe you want to start in Italian and then German.
Would you like?
Okay.
Shall I start? You want?
Start you.
Okay. Es gab 19 Inhaftierte. Irgendwann wurde der Professor für Linguistik fortgebracht und wir waren nur noch 18. Darunter waren 3 alte Männer. Ein äußerst gebildeter, freundlicher jüdischer Professor, den man wegen seiner Religion eingesperrt hatte. Er war ein pensionierter Diplomat, der Japanisch sprach und sich in der Politik des Landes gut auskannte, sowie ein weniger gebildeter Kaufmann aus Yokohama, mit dem der Diplomat aufgrund ihrer unterschiedlichen Ansichten in ständigem Streit lag. Der Diplomat nannte den Kaufmann dumm und der Kaufmann den Diplomaten scheinheilig. Dann gab es noch einen Missionar aus dem Piemont, der viel über die Geschichte Japans und seine Religion wusste. Dann waren da noch die jüngeren Erwachsenen, die mit Geschick und Kreativität alles Mögliche unternahmen, um etwas Essbares zu beschaffen. Sie mussten die Schlafräume putzen, waren für das Kochen und kleine Arbeiten zuständig, die, wie es Fosco nennt, für ein altes Haus voller Menschen nötig waren. Unter den 7 Jüngeren war auch mein Vater, ein kräftiger Mann in den 30ern, auch wenn seine Kraft durch den Mangel an Nahrung zunehmend schwand. Außerdem ein Ingenieur aus Mailand, ein Fiat-Vertreter aus Tokio, ein Bauer aus dem Friaul, ein ehemaliger Student aus Rom und 2 hochgebildete Intellektuelle, enge Freunde von Fosco, die Bino und Bencivenni hießen, ein Historiker und ein vom Buddhismus faszinierter Priester. In der ersten Zeit im Lager gingen alle freundlich und solidarisch miteinander um. Aber mit der Zeit, mit dem immer dramatischer werdenden Mangel, der zunehmenden Kälte und der schlechten Ernährung kam es zu Auseinandersetzungen, Trotzreaktionen und Streitigkeiten. Alles jedoch spielte sich innerhalb zivilisierter Grenzen ab. Die Gruppe bestand aus gebildeten Europäern des 20. Jahrhunderts, die sich intensiv und in angemessener Weise inmitten einer feindlichen Welt über politische, historische und ästhetische Fragen austauschten, entschlossen auf der Grundlage der Vernunft, alle Hindernisse zu überwinden, so Fosco. Yes. Weihnachten 1943 stand kurz bevor. Unsere Eltern setzten alles daran, dass wir Kinder einige schöne Tage erleben sollten. Topazia hatte aus Lumpen Puppen gebastelt und aus Pappkartons ein Miniaturtheater gebaut. Es waren Pakete japanischer Freunde angekommen, aber die Aufseher hatten sie uns nicht ausgehändigt. Einige enthielten Süßigkeiten, die sie monatelang im Tempel lagerten und verderben ließen, damit wir Kinder sie nicht bekamen. Die Töchter von Verrätern sind selbst Verräter, wie sie immer wieder sagten. Professor Weilschott, der uns Mädchen stets freundlich und liebevoll behandelte, hatte zu diesem besonderen Anlass aus seinem geheimen Lager eine Büchse mit eingelegten Pfirsichen geholt, die sich all die Monate gehalten hatte und die auf einen Teller drapiert. das kostbarste und am meisten genossene Geschenk dieses weit zurückliegenden Weihnachtsfests, süße und saftige Pfirsiche für einen ausgetrockneten Gaumen, der nur an gekochten Reis und bitteren Tee gewöhnt war. Das kam mir wie ein Wunder vor. Meine Mutter schrieb in ihr Tagebuch: Weihnachten 1943. Wir haben die Erlaubnis, den Kirschbaum im Hof als Weihnachtsbaum zu schmücken. Die Mädchen sind glücklich. Warum dürfen wir keine Geschenke kaufen? Bitterkeit. Am Abend des 24. Dezember Erlaubnis zu singen. Venite adoremus. Shizuki-ki, Stille Nacht, auf Japanisch. Der Chemiker hatte eine köstliche Creme gemacht, aus 4 Eiern, für 18 Personen, die man uns wegen des festlichen Ereignisses gestattet hatte. Aber selbst eine Creme aus 4 Eiern, etwas Reismehl, wenigen Löffeln Zucker und viel mit Wasser gestreckter Milch war eine Delikatesse für uns. Ich erinnere mich mit Rührung an die Lieder in dieser Weihnachtsnacht im Krieg. Keine schallend lauten Stimmen, der Hunger hatte sie flach werden lassen. Aber das Singen hat uns erneut vereint und das Gefühl gegeben, ein einziger Organismus zu sein, der kraftvoll und solidarisch bleiben musste, wenn er überleben wollte. Es waren die Lieder, die wir alle auswendig kannten, weil wir sie in der Familie gehört hatten, an den Weihnachtsfesten einer friedlichen Kindheit, wo es uns gut gegangen war. Jetzt, in diesem eiskalten Hof, vor dem beinahe kahlen Kirschbaum mit seinen letzten vertrockneten Blättern stehend, die Äste mit roten und grünen Schleifen verziert, die meine Mutter irgendwo aus dem Koffer gezaubert hatte, waren wir trotz aller Widrigkeiten gerührt und glücklich. Auch zum Jahreswechsel 1944/45, nach einem Jahr des Leidens, wurden uns Eier zugeteilt. 4 für eine Creme für 18 Personen. Wir feierten das neue Jahr, von dem wir hofften, es möge besser werden als das vergangene. Wieder hatte der Chemiker eine magere Creme zubereitet, die uns köstlich erschien. Keine Sonderbehandlung, schrieb meine Mutter in ihr Tagebuch. Aber auch die Geduld und der Wunsch zu schreiben hatten ein Ende erreicht in diesem harten Winter 1945, als die Hoffnung kaum mehr als ein Flämmchen war und auch die letzten körperlichen Reserven aufgebraucht waren. Wir warteten auf den Tod wie auf eine Befreiung.
Grazie. Grazie. Vuoi che leggo qualcosa?
Sì, per favore.
Mia madre scrive nel suo diario: Natale 43. Abbiamo avuto il permesso di fare l'albero di ciliegio del cortile. Le bambine erano felici. Proibizioni di comprare qualche regalo. Ma perché? Amarezza. Ci hanno dato il permesso di cantare il 24 sera. Venite adoremus, Shizuki Ki e Stille Nacht in giapponese. Il chimico ha fatto un'ottima crema, ha scritto mia madre, con 4 uova per 19 persone, consegnate come una grande occasione festiva. Ma anche una crema fatta con 4 uova, un poco di farina di riso, qualche cucchiaio di zucchero e tanto latte annacquato per noi era una delizia. Ricordo con commozione i canti di quella notte di Natale di guerra. Le voci non erano squillanti, la fame le aveva rese fiacche, ma pure quel cantare ci ha ancora una volta uniti e fatti sentire un corpo unico che bisognava tenere saldo e solidale se si voleva sopravvivere. Erano i canti che tutti sapevano a memoria per averli sentiti in famiglia durante i Natali di un'infanzia di pace e di benessere. Ora, in quel cortile gelido, in piedi davanti a uno spelacchiato ciliegio, dalle foglie secche, i rami ingentiliti da piccoli fiocchi rossi e verdi che mia madre aveva scovato non so in quale fondo di valigia, ci sentivamo per una volta commossi e felici. Ecco, grazie.
Yeah, before I would just like mention a little, give some information about one person. What is really interesting is this Professor Weilschott we heard about, this Jewish professor. And I did a little research with the director of the Jewish Museum in Hohenems. This is in Western Austria. And we found out that actually the origin of this family Wildschut is in Hohenems, yeah. And then the family went to Milano, and he was a very interesting person and a diplomat, and he helped in the 30s to start this rapprochement between Japan and Italy. He was an important person then, and worked then at the embassy of Italy in Tokyo. But yeah, maybe just another question. It's very interesting for me too, because when I lived in Japan, I knew about your family's history, but when my husband and I asked our Japanese colleagues about the subject, there was no one who knew anything about detention camps for foreigners. Everybody said, "Oh no, we don't know. I never heard about." And now, beside the film by your niece Muja Maraini that I already mentioned, there was another documentary with you and your father shown in a Japanese TV program, right? And 1 year ago, you went to Japan and to the places of the detention camp close to Nagoya and Kyoto. And so I think it would be interesting to hear how the Japanese people now reacted when they heard about these conditions in the camp.
Well, you know, the camp were, as I said, very small. That's the problem, that people really forgot about them. Maybe they didn't speak enough. But nobody in Nagoya knew about the camp, which has been there for 2 years. And only when I went this year, it was beginning of this year, because Japanese a publisher translated this book in Japanese, and I think it's basically a courageous act. They asked to go to Hokkaido, which is the extreme north, where we were living before the concentration camp, because my father was studying a population of the North Japan called Ainu, which now they are nearly disappeared because it was a very ancient population. So he was there to study as an anthropologist this population. And we went there. And by the way, I learned a very sad story about a Japanese student who was a friend of my father and was interested in Italian history. And as he was speaking with foreigners, he has been imprisoned as a traitor, just because he has friends which were not Japanese, and he was studying something about European history. He had been in prison, he had been tortured, and he died. And I didn't know that. I didn't know this story, and so we went to see the place, and they showed me where they made it like a sort of little museum about this story of this man, student, and they showed me the photos in which I was there as a child with my father and his friend. For example, I didn't have these photos, and I was very impressed by this. Well, they were very conscious. Mm-hmm. And, for example, making a museum for these men who have been treated very injustice way, just because he was friends of foreigners, I think, is a way of dealing with justice, with history, and with memory. So, and I was very happy to see the place, to see the museum. And some of the photos I never knew. They were the photos of my father with this friend, Japanese student. My father was very young when we went to Japan, and I think that the Japanese are very conscious about what they did and what has been in the history. Well, like the Germans, in a way. today, I think, in Berlin, for example, there are 4 museums about the Shoah. No? That means that a population want to reflect and to know what happened in their own country. And also in Italy, I think now there is a very strong anti-fascist atmosphere. Just in the last time, maybe something is changing. I hope that we won't go on with the, there is a moment in which irrationality is becoming more important than reason, la ragione, no? L'irrazionalità contro la ragione. This is the atmosphere in this moment, but in all the world. In all the world. And there is a fight between those who believe in history, in rationality, in science, in research, in study, in school, and those who don't believe, who they believe that democracy is corrupted, is dead. There are some intellectuals also in Italy who theorize that democracy is not good anymore. Well, I want to know what is the alternative. You have to tell me, because it's easy to criticize, but you have to tell me which is the alternative to democracy. This is a problem. This is a great problem. This is a great ethic problem, no? Because I agree that democracy and Europe have many difficulties, but where is and what is the alternative to democracy? So I believe that we have to be strongly with Europe and what Europe, because Europe is not only money, it's not only a question of money, it's a question of values. We have gained certain values in centuries. We have to defend these values or not? This is a great question, political question of the moment.
Yes. Yeah, and we have to learn from you to get, to have the power to do this fight, yes. And maybe Dacia Maraini, you also went to a Roman prison once, yeah, and you worked with the prisoners because
many times, not once.
Yeah, and because your belief is so strong. Yeah, we can do something. Yeah, we can, and literature helps, and expressing your desire helps, and you wrote with them, right?
Yes. Well, I'm a writer, so I express myself with writing, with words. I believe in words, and words with rationality, with ideas. But I think that a writer should also be interested in his own country, his own moment in which he lives. I mean, I think that if we just look at the past, for example, in Italy, no? Well, all the important writers in Italy have been, in a way, socially engaged, even if not politically, but socially engaged, starting from Dante. No? If you think that Dante understood that Italy should be united, and he started to do it with the language. The language of the Italian country, I mean, it was not a country, united country, but I mean, the people used to speak dialect, and the dialect was not written. It was a spoken language, no? And all the towns have a different language. So, and he had the first idea, and the language of the culture community, I mean the church, the university didn't exist, but the important literary situation were in Latin. So the language of the culture was Latin. And Dante started to write in volgare, which was the language of the people. And this was a very important engagement because he started to think that the language should not be only the Latin language, but the Italian language. And it was a way to say that Italy should be united, which happened many centuries afterwards. And also, for example, Leopardi. Leopardi is a wonderful, wonderful poet, but at the school, we learn only about la villetta che viene, la fanciulletta che viene dalla campagna, sweet little rhymes. But if you read his writings, they are very, very strong, social, political in the sense not of parties, but strong critics against the power and very strong for the critic against the injustice. And so the same thing with Manzoni, for example. So I think that the writers, in a way, not a political, not in the sense of the parties, but they are engaged in a way. They have to, because they are part, a sensitive and, how can I say, responsible part of a society. And so they have to have an idea. And if you think of our now new writers, like Moravia, Pasolini, Sciascia, all the writers of the 20th century, they are all engaged, not belonging to a party, but they have a very clear idea of and a conflictual relation with the power. That's why I think that I also tried to, for example, I made many inquiries in the prisons, inquiries in asylum, for example, before Basaglia. Now you know that Basaglia made a very important law to close the asylums, I manicomi. How do you say that?
Ja, die Psychiatrie, die geschlossenen Anstalten wurden verboten. Ja.
Very, very important.
Geöffnet.
But before that, the asylum were like prisons. The people were there with electroshock, and they were there forever. Instead, he said, the illness of mind can be so, how do you say, può essere guarito, and so he decided, and the law decided to close the asylum, and the people can be cured, but out of the asylum, not with electroshock, not with tortures And so I did in prison. I did with the poor people that house. How do you say it? People without house.
Obdachlos.
Homeless people. Homeless. So with my weapons, my weapons are words, and so I think that a writer works with words, but I mean significant words, not just words like that, but words that try to understand, to know, and deal with the truth. Not easy. It's not easy, but it's important.
My weapons are words. We will remember this.
What?
My weapons are words.
Words. Yes, that's right.
Yeah, maybe I don't know how tired you are, but if you have a question, please. We still have a little bit of time. Please. Feel free also to, wenn Sie etwas fragen möchten, gerne.
We need some light, I can't say anything.
Bräuchten wir ein bisschen Licht und wir hätten auch ein kleines Mikrofon. Thomas würde es dann auch hinbringen. Ja, hier gibt es schon eine Meldung.
Hello? Hello?
Ah,
Jetzt,
now we
jetzt.
can see.
First of all, thank you very much that you are here. How do you overcome the trauma? And did you feel maybe in your adolescence, angry about what your parents did to your daughters? Because I think it's also a very human feeling to feel angry, just to be the victim of a decision of an ideology. I mean, very right. But how do you overcome this trauma, and were you angry at a time?
Well, I don't know. Depends, first of all, from the character. Secondary, from the education, I think. And as I said before, my father and my mother, they were against aggression, against vengeance, and they were for never being angry. I mean, you feel bad if you are angry. If you are always angry, you can be angry for a moment. You can be angry for a moment, but then you have to deal with serenity. You have to deal with, specifically, if you try to understand, which I think is the duty of a writer, to understand. Even the worst thing in the world, you can try to understand. No. So in this, if you try to understand, you are not angry anymore. I think so. Thank you for the question. Prego.
Das ist gleichzeitig mein Training heute.
He's running up and down.
Thank you so much for your consciousness. Thank you. It's a question. You talk about the documentary film.
I can't listen.
You talk about the documentary film, where it is possible to see it.
Icona Plum Tree, the documentary.
Ah, yes. No,
Monica.
this is the daughter of my sister, who is, yes, she's working with the cinemas. She made a documentary. But, yes, I think that it's online, I mean, on the web. And I can tell you after how to reach
nice.
it. Yes,
Thank you.
It's a very good documentary made from a young person today who went to Japan to understand, try to understand what happened.
Yeah.
And there is a view of the war, and she also asks people now what they. For example, she reached one of the guards. But he didn't want to say anything. She just went away, you see. But it was interesting that she went there, and the people in the place where there was a camp, nobody knew about the camp. Mm-hmm. Nobody knew. That was strange, no? It's a sort of memory, forgotten memory.
Thank you.
But after, if you want, I can give you,
It was very kind. Thank you.
the link.
Thank you.
Va bene, I will try, because I have to look at my in my telephone and try to find it. When I find it, I can give it to you.
Dear Dacia, I admire you for your strength, for your verity, for your vitality, for your fighting.
Oh, thank you.
And how vital you are at the moment, okay?
Thank you. Thank you very much.